God works in mysterious ways, my friends. He apparently makes miracles happen, but still does not really help the millions of sick and starving children in the world. And nor does he reveal to us a way to stop the pointless wars and, well, honestly, dick-measuring contests between certain world leaders, which are constantly involving the general public. The concept of God is known under many names and within many religions and ideologies. But today, we are looking at the one true God. Praise Helix, my friends, for our god Arceus has descended to our mortal plane. And yes, it's Arceus, not Arceus. I will die on this hill and you cannot change my mind, so don't even bother trying, to be honest. So, who is this Arceus and why am I doxing him? Arceus is a normal type mythical Pokemon which debuted in the 4th generation of Pokemon games, these being Pokemon Diamond, Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Platinum. His Pokédex entry specifies him as the Alpha Pokemon, which is slightly concerning since this does imply the existence of a Sigma Pokemon. But Arceus is known as the creator of the entire Pokemon world. Among all known Pokemon, it has the highest base stat total, making it the statistically strongest Pokemon, at least on paper. Arceus created the universe of Pokemon as we know it, including the concepts of time, space and antimatter with the Pokemon Dialga, Palkia and Giratina, as well as the concepts of emotion, knowledge and willpower with the creation of the Lake Trio. And in truth, he created pretty much anything Pokemon related in the Pokemon world, but he is mostly associated with these two trios within the Pokemon lore, right? Arceus most closely resembles a Qilin in terms of physical appearance. A Qilin is a Chinese mythical animal which looks like a mix between a Chinese dragon, a lion, a deer and a horse. But according to the lore in Pokemon Legends Arceus, the Arceus that we see is actually merely a fragment of the real Arceus, acting as its proxy of sorts in the living world. According to the legend surrounding Arceus, he is said to have shaped the universe with his 1,000 hands. And I just realized I've been referring to Arceus as a he this entire time, when really Arceus does not even have a gender in game. But you know, using he just talks a lot easier for me, so bear with me. But as you have seen, Arceus does not really have a literal 1,000 hands. Or, well, his proxy does not have them, right? This 1,000 hand statement could refer to a possible true form of Arceus we have simply not seen yet. It could also refer to 1,000 of his proxies working together. It could also refer to his use of the unknown in creating stuff. Hell, it could even refer to his signature move, Judgment, which is like, 1,000 objects, guesstimating there, falling from the sky. But Arceus also has control over space, time and antimatter. He might have created the creation trio of Giratina, Dialga and Palkia, who represent and control these forces, but he himself can also transport people across space and time, as seen in the events of Pokemon Legends Arceus. So, about his combat abilities. This is honestly a tough one. It turns out Pokemon and Dragon Ball are very, very different from one another in terms of how easy it is to, well, compare levels of strength between the two. In terms of Pokemon, Arceus simply has the highest quote-unquote power level, I suppose, with a base stat total of 720. In terms of raw numbers, he outclasses every other Pokemon on the starting line. But others can surpass him with status boosting moves, of course, but that only really refers to the in-universe Pokemon stuff, right? The tricky thing with Pokemon is that there are essentially 5 continuities that you can look at for gauging their power. You have the anime, of course, which is probably what people are most familiar with. Then you have the games, which is probably a close second. The franchise is popular enough that damn near everyone has played a Pokemon game once or twice in their lives. But you also have the manga, which follows a storyline which is kind of a blend between the anime and the games. You also have the spin-off games you can look at, and you can also look at the Pokemon trading card game to gauge how strong a Pokemon might be. Personally, I lean more towards the anime and the games being the quote-unquote proper way to look at how strong a Pokemon could be in other contexts. The games give data in regards to raw stats, movesets and abilities, whilst the anime gives a more global, out-of-context representation, including actual lore drops and actual lore-related powers. In terms of his in-game data, he can learn virtually every type of move, with the sole exception being moves which require the use of arms or hands, since, well, he doesn't really have those. And this is actually very useful for Arceus. Not because he can learn all of those powerful offensive moves, but because he can learn a lot of annoying toxic ones, such as, ironically, Toxic, which whittles the enemy down over time. Moves that can paralyze or put the opponent to sleep. Moves that can confuse the opponent. Moves that can protect or heal himself, etc. While I believe that some of the bigger moves like Judgment or maybe Draco Meteor and like Hyper Beam or whatever could do some damage in the world of Dragon Ball, the vast majority of moves will probably be rather insignificant on an offensive spectrum. But these status moves could really fuck Dragon Ball up, man. Like, Goku getting confused and just beating the crap out of the others is a doomsday scenario. Or what if every Z fighter just gets toxic poisoning and progressively gets weaker, and they can have their stats lower too? Like, this is the true power of Pokemon in my opinion. Being incredibly annoying turtle fighters who whittle you down over time. But that is if we assume that all Pokemon moves have the exact same effects on Dragon Ball opponents, of course. But for the sake of this video, that is exactly what I will go by for, well, obvious reasons, right? Like, that's the entire point of this video. Arceus also has a ability which is pretty cool, but I sadly don't think that it will have too big of an impact, but for the context of this video, I do still want to discuss this nonetheless. So Arceus has an ability called Multi-Type. Normally, Arceus is a pure normal type Pokemon, but thanks to this ability, he can freely switch to any of the other 18 typings. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I seem to remember there's 18 types by now, right? But he can do that by swapping what elemental plate he is holding at the moment. So for example, if he holds a poison plate, he becomes a poison type. Now, why does that matter? In the world of Pokemon, type matchups actually matter a whole lot. Moves can be not very effective, neutral or super effective depending on what type attacks what other type, right? But I'm sure most of you already knew that, but you know, super effective moves deal 1.5 times the damage and not very effective moves deal 0.5 times the damage. But if a Pokemon uses a move with the same type as the Pokemon itself, the move's power will be amplified by 1.2 times as a stab bonus. And this could come in pretty handy if Arceus just wants to boost the power of a specific move he finds useful against a specific opponent. According to the anime mechanics, Arceus can probably use more than the maximum of 4 moves he could normally use at a time in the games. He also has the ability to hold all plates at the same time in the anime and rapidly swap them at will. I will be giving him those same abilities here, honestly simply because I want to, so yeah, he has the ability now. But that pretty much sums up Arceus in terms of abilities, right? So let's get to seeing how strong he could be in the world of Dragon Ball. Arceus in Dragon Ball, huh? Never thought I'd even be making this video, but I think it's safe to consider Arceus as being a universal entity. He can create universes, manipulate space and time, and even create life itself. But I struggle heavily to put him on the same level as, for example, the gods, or well, the Kais in this case, in Dragon Ball. Where, for example, a god of destruction like Beerus can destroy a planet with a tap of his finger, Arceus can absolutely not just snap the universe away. He has not shown that type of power in any type of Pokemon medium, so I do not believe he can just, you know, take it all away. Offensively speaking, he is probably near the level of maybe a Raditz. He can make a planet uninhabitable, I do believe that, but I struggle to see him just blowing one up willy-nilly. Arceus is a funny guy because whilst he is universal in terms of his feats, he is nowhere near universal in terms of his actual power. Vegeta would honestly slap the absolute shit out of him simply because his power output is just that much higher than what we've ever seen Arceus do. Personally, I struggle to see Arceus going any further than the early Saiyan saga due to the seemingly insane gap of offensive power between, I don't know, Arceus and any enemy post-Nappa maybe? And maybe I am massively underselling him here, right? But I just do not see Arceus tanking these hits that could potentially destroy planets. But do keep in mind that this is all referring to what is basically Arceus' proxy. The real Arceus does not have a physical form. The real Arceus is impossible to scale because we know fuck all about him. He could very well be on the level of Zeno, or he could be as weak as Frieza. But even if he was as, you know, quote-unquote weak as Frieza, he would still be insanely strong, let's just be completely real there. But the simple reality is that all we can really use to scale him applies to his proxy, and I really don't believe his proxy could surpass the Saiyan saga. But let me know what you guys think here, because I'm sure there's multiple takes you can have here. I think I gave this a pretty fair scaling, but I will freely admit that I found it incredibly difficult to get a verdict for this pairing. Pokemon and Dragon Ball are not exactly an easy comparison to make, and this video is no exception to that rule. So be sure to let me know your takes on all of this, and I'm curious to see if my opinion differs a lot from the common consensus that you guys will have reached in the comments down below. But I have been yapping on for far too long as per usual. So thank you all so much for watching today's video. I truly do appreciate every single viewer that takes the time out of their day to just watch my content. It makes me a very happy boy to know that even a handful of people enjoys the content I produce. It's why I make content in the first place. Now, if you would like to see more of my content in the future, please consider clicking the subscribe button and turning on all notifications for my channel to never miss another video ever again. Work hard, study well, and eat and sleep plenty, and I will see you all again in the next video. Peace out.